All right. Boom! We're back. Squeeze the neck. Bonus episode with my mate, returning guest, Radio Rahim. Bash! Bash! Good to see you, my brother. Always good. I put up the bat signal today about a thing. I was expecting maybe next week or whatever. You said, get your ass over.
No, man. When Robin calls Batman, you don't wait.
Hey, that's like a shot at me or what? Robin calls Batman? No, hey. I'm Batman. I put up the bat signal. Robin don't put up bat signal.
With all due respect, you've come into the lair. You've come into the lair.
I've got to concede that one. You know what? When you're right, you're right.
There's no shame in being
Robin me off
being Robin.
On my own show, would you believe it? But as I say, mate, always great to see you. We're going to talk about some heavyweight action, probably, and other stuff as well. AJ versus Fury, possibility. Wardley versus Dubois is happening in a couple of weeks' time, so we'll get into it, mate. But you tell me first of all, Wardley, Dubois, we'll get straight in because the Joshua one's obviously not signed yet, we'll get to. But I'm really interested in this one as it's getting closer. I wasn't overly, it was one of them fights for me when it got announced, I was like, good fight, cool, whatever. As it's getting closer, I'm like, I got to see this one. This is for the future going forward, especially obviously UK, but in worldwide. These two are sort of the next generation, if you like, to me. And we've got a lot going on at the top, but let's be honest, Usyk's not getting any younger. He's not going to be here forever. So he said 3 fights, I think, right? What do you think, mate? Tell me.
Unlike you, when I first heard the announcement of the fight, I was thrilled. In fact, while we were trying to figure out what Wardley would do, once we realized that Usyk wasn't going that direction, I really thought Dubois was an outside chance. He's a hell of a tough fight to take after immediately being elevated. While I credit him for the Joseph Parker win, of course, you still haven't really won that fight in the ring because the belt wasn't on the line at the time. Parker wasn't world champion. So indeed, you have been elevated. And it's not unlike the circumstance that Dubois himself found himself in after beating Hrgovic, right? The fight should have been for the world title. Usyk, I believe, knew when that fight went on he wasn't going to take on the winner, but he held back. And so Dubois had to be elevated. And then, of course, immediately, as we are in boxing, always nitpicking and looking for a way to take a guy down, there was a lot of conversation about whether Dubois was truly a world champion. And by most estimations, while you give the guy the credit for beating the man in front of him, you don't want to give him the credit for being a world champion if he hasn't beaten a world champion. So really, until he faced Anthony Joshua and dispatched with him in decisive fashion, I don't believe that the boxing world on whole regarded him like a world champion. But since he beat a former world champion of the pedigree of Joshua on a stage that was so huge, as he entered the ring an underdog, you had to give him his credit and his bona fides. And after that, that conversation was done. Wardley, I believe rightly, if he wants to be considered as a world champion of that level, of that pedigree, without beating an existing title holder, he'd have to take on the biggest challenge available to him. And that, I believe, is Dubois. You might make an argument for Cabial, but Cabial's never been world champion. You could maybe have made an argument for a Parker rematch because it was such a late stopage, and I'm not going to argue with the stoppage, but you could if you wanted to. But then, of course, Parker's being taken out of that equation because of the failed drug test. Well, what's left for him? Usyk's clearly not available. Tyson Fury don't want it. Now that would have been, like if Tyson comes back to fight Wardley, that would have been, I would say, the only greater challenge I might have put to him. And while I say greater challenge, I would say also a fight he's more likely to win is a Fury coming out of retirement after 16 months to face a momentum-heavy, knockout punching, confident, younger Wardley. I think I'd give Wardley a better shot at that fight. I would feel more confident that Fury was the one in trouble, more so than I feel like Dubois is in trouble. And so it's odd for me to say, well, that is a more bona fide fight. But in the same way that Joshua, while people thought Joshua's chinny, while people thought, Dubois is clearly much younger, it's beating someone who has been an established champion, who has that kind of reverence, taking that kind of fighter down, taking a superstar down, it gives you immediately that kind of credit. That name on your resume oftentimes does more for you than a tougher fight with a guy who has less pedigree. So that's what he's looking at. This fight, man, for Dubois is an opportunity to win a title in the ring. He's got nothing to do with how Wardley got the belt. For Dubois, if he beats Wardley, it'll be the first time he's won a title in the ring.
Right.
And for Wardley, this is as close as he could get to making that title he holds around his waist credible. And both guys are fucking tough, come forward, clobbering fighters. I'm not looking at anybody off the back foot. I'm not looking at anybody who is willing to just let the other guys impose himself from the start. And the only differential between the two is that there is a question about Dubois' grit. And there's no question about Wardley's grit. But he's also maybe never been tested with a puncher like Dubois. So this will be the test of that. If I'm Dubois, I'm thinking this is the kind of fight that Jarrell Miller was. This is the kind of fight, this could be a long night like Hrgovic started out as. This could be a war of attrition. I don't think Wardley outsmarts Dubois. And that's what makes Dubois, if you want to say quit, quit. That's what makes Dubois frustrated. That's what makes Dubois take his foot off the gas, and that's when you could eclipse him. That's not Wardley's game.
No.
Rock'em sock'em, toe-to-toe, nose-to-nose, that, I believe, plays into Dubois' hands. He's a more experienced, former world champion, legitimately in my book, hungry, I believe confident that while he's been beaten twice by Usyk, anybody would be, so it doesn't take quite the stick out of him that other fighters might have if they had beaten him. So it's a very high hurdle, a higher one than some people regard, just because a lot of fighters in this game are like only as good as their last fight, especially by the fans' estimation. Whatever you saw them do last, you think is the best they could do, or you think that that is what the next guy will do to them. Usyk is an anomaly in that. So if you take Usyk off the table, Dubois still on a hell of a run. He is a very dangerous opponent, rejoined Don Charles after having to humble himself and his father having to humble himself to say, hey, we made the wrong move. We're going to come back. This is where we're at home. This is where we're comfortable. Even that, I believe, puts a little bit more wind at the back of Dubois. So for me, this is as 50-50 a fight as 50-50 fights get.
Well, yeah, I agree with most of what you said. They're pretty much all of it except the Tyson bit. We'll come to that in a sec. But putting on my, what do you call it, Colombo rain jacket, I'm assuming you think Dubois is getting this one.
When I say 50-50, that's literally what I mean. I can make a real strong case for either, so it's a good thing I'm not a gambling man, right? It really, I believe, depends on if Wardley's going to have the advantage, he's going to have to outsmart Dubois. He's going to have to come up with something that is frustrating Dubois. And I believe Don Charles is a seasoned enough trainer. He has faced Ben Davidson fighters before, namely, of course, in Anthony Joshua. There's a whole matchup happening there that most people aren't even talking about. That's a whole rivalry unto itself. So that's going to be a chess game. Don's going to prepare Dubois appropriately for what he will game plan out that Wardley will come to do. If Wardley and Davidson are able to throw a curveball, able to put something in front of them that Dubois is not ready for, Wardley's got the advantage because that is where Dubois short circuits. And a lot of times, even Don Charles can't rewire him mid-fight.
Right.
Like once he short circuits, there's a real opportunity to stop him.
And what do you make of Don Charles coming back? Do you think, is he, I guess in some ways you could make the argument he's game power because, like you said, Dubois has got to humble himself and come back. But in the other way, is he sort of, he's already left him once. Has he lost a bit of sort of like pull on the reins, if you like? Do you know what I'm saying?
No, I'd say if anything, he's finally got both hands on both reins, and maybe the father has let one of those reins go.
You'd hope so, right?
If that is, if that's a dynamic, it's almost like, and you're going to have to excuse the analogy, but it's almost like you lose a girl because her dad says she can't date you. And then they both come back to you, the father and the girl. And the father's like, you know what? You're the best for my daughter, honestly. We've been out there. These guys aren't it. And she's like, I always wanted to be here anyway.
Yeah.
That's,
but
you marry that one.
What you said there, we've been out there. Do you want to hear that from the girl? Do you see what I'm saying? Is that dynamic change things?
Well, a little bit. Because in this case, this is Charles feather in his cap. Mm-hmm. This is his heavyweight world champion. He wants an opportunity to prove that he can win that fight in the ring just like Dubois does. Right. He wants an opportunity to take Dubois as far as he can go. He knows, like we do, that Alexander Usyk is in fact an anomaly kind of fight, that they put their best foot forward twice, and in each case they come up short. But short of Usyk, they think they can beat anybody.
Right.
And the longer you're able to hone this talent and chisel this kind of lump of not unfashioned coal, but into shape, something that you've now had an opportunity to whittle away at for a while, this can be Don's masterpiece.
And do you think he's great at Dubois?
Certainly.
Sorry to cut you off, but do you think Dubois, because we said it a minute ago, we're talking about like whether he gets what the word would be. I've got my own opinion on it. I don't think he's a quitter personally. I think we lost the thing. Let's not go quiet.
Don't worry about it.
So I feel like he's. I don't think he's a quitter. I think what happens is he gets bewildered, and when things get too much for him, he sort of gets lost and doesn't know what to do. I don't see him as a quitter in the sense of the word. Do you see where I'm coming from with that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't call him a quitter either, but that is the criticism. Yeah. You know what I mean? What the hell?
We'll find it. We've got a magnet stray somewhere.
Yeah.
There it is. It's down there, mate. I don't want to reach for it. It's right in your crotch. It might get views though. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I just see the thing spiking here, so I'm trying to pull it, take it further away.
We're good.
There we
go. A little bit higher, I think, mate. Let's have it about
well, that's
there.
what I'm saying. I'm looking at the...
All right, you're the pro. You're the pro. I'll give it to you. If the sound's off, you blame him. Get up in his DM, not mine.
We're a little hot. We're a little hot there.
That's all right. We're good. We get excited, Randy.
So, yeah, I think that this is Don Charles' masterpiece opportunity. Mm-hmm. It will be off the back of Dubois' success that he could acquire the younger next generation of talent if he's able to take Dubois as far as he can. Imagine Dubois reclaims. Now Dubois is Don Charles' 2-time world champion. Mm-hmm. All these belts will be fractured, if not in the immediate future, very soon. Mm-hmm. I don't think Usyk is interested in fighting mandatories. He's interested in fighting who he chooses, and that is going to make his mandatories elevate to world title status. So right now, this generation of young heavyweights, it's Lord of the Flies out there. And I'd say Dubois is a good horse to have. Mm-hmm. You know, Don Charles is going to want to face the Cabiols, who's going to want to, Lawrence Sicoli is just kind of fallen out of contention. Dubois and Tony Yoka are both in Don Charles' stable. So he's trying to put a heavyweight stable together to contend for these titles that'll be coming available. 100%. Don Charles also played it well. Mm-hmm. He said what he had to say when the disruption happened, when he got fired. And he said enough, but not too much. Mm-hmm. And then in the interim, when questions were put to Dubois about being a quitter or the potential of who he could be, Don Charles was classy about it. Stayed complimentary. And then the opportunity comes back his way, and now I think the point is proven to the camp, and they've got to give him the opportunity now to do it his way, which he may have not had until this point. Mm-hmm. So yeah, man, that's a fantastic situation. I am curious, though, about what exception you take about the Tyson Fury bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like in terms of a tougher fight, and I'll tell you why, because I think that fight could turn into a similar situation, not necessarily style-wise as the Usyk one, but where he's a bit bewildered and like lost. Do you know what I mean? I think that could be a thing. Whereas I think the Fabio Wardley one, in a lot of ways, is his to lose in a way. You know, I feel like his opportunity to get rid of him is strong. He's a big puncher.
You mean Wardley? It's Wardley's opportunity.
It's Dubois' fight to lose. So in terms of, Dubois a massive puncher, right? He's a front runner. We saw, like, obviously his Joshua one stands out. But if he comes out of the blocks, there's a good chance he could get rid of anyone, right? In terms of his power and whatnot and his belief. I think with him, again, I keep referencing like the mental side of things, but it's like when he's in front, like that when he's running downhill, if you like he was against Joshua, like that's a hard man to stop. Even in that exchange, he got clipped by Joshua. He's a massive puncher himself, but because he's sort of geared towards I'm winning this fight, I feel like it's easier for him. You know, now obviously I'm looking from the outside. I don't know what's going on between his ears, but for me, if he starts fast, there's a chance he could get rid of Wardley. If he doesn't get rid of Wardley...
You can knock him out early.
Yeah, if he doesn't get rid of... And not necessarily early. I don't think early necessarily might break him down a bit, whatever, and like, it's whatever. But I feel like if he doesn't get rid of him and Wardley starts gaining momentum around the mid-rounds, I think then it becomes a really hard night for Dubois. And I lean towards Wardley winning this fight.
And Fury...
I think Fury would have boxed his head off.
Okay. A sharp Fury... A younger Fury,
yeah.
A fresher in the sense that he's been active Fury, but off 16 months, 37 years old, reality show in the offing. You saw what he looked against Monmadov. Now, would I want Wardley against Fury next? Much more difficult than if he had taken him on.
I got you.
Instead
I see where you
of
come from.
Magomedov. That's my point.
I got you.
Yeah,
I got you.
Which does bring us to subsequently what's happened after the Magomedov victory. I'll let you set it up.
Well, AJ Fury, right? We might as well jump straight into it because now's the fight. I mean, you tell me what you think. I feel like they're both at an age now where if it doesn't happen, and I don't know whether they're past their primes or what, you can make your own mind up. But if it doesn't happen now, it becomes one of them fights that's not irrelevant because we'll watch them fight when they're 50. Do you know what I mean? But it's one of them fights, it'll be a bit like the Pacquiao-Floyd thing where it's like we feel like we missed it. Do you know what I mean? And it's almost not irrelevant who wins, but it's not as important that like such and such beat the other versus like they were old and it was like who had more left. Do you see where I'm coming from?
I think the dynamic that makes this fight interesting is the same as it was even when they were more in their primes. They still, the same criticism that you would have against Joshua in this matchup 10 years ago, same thing you're going to say today. Yep. Oh, he's chinny. We think Fury outboxes him. Joshua's a little stiff. Can Joshua hit Fury? Blah, 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 blah. The same thing you would say about Fury's vulnerabilities. Well, Joshua's got a big right hand. If he catches him, we've seen Fury go down many times before. Can Joshua knock him out? Is Joshua going to be able to walk him down? Will Fury, try to make it rough in there but lose on points? These are the kind of things like, I would say maybe even if Fury were to win on points but just kind of mug Joshua, it would be a victory in the ring, but not the kind of bragging rights that either fighter is looking for.
Yeah, I got you.
Right? So I don't know that. Now, listen, you're talking to an American as well, and I realize that Deontay Wilder was our heavyweight champion during this era, but they're still both fucking British heavyweights. Short of Lennox Lewis, there really are no greats.
Oh, no.
These guys are gonna be. These guys are gonna fight out to be the second best British heavyweight ever.
Okay.
And so, whether they did that 10 years ago or they do that in September, this the same stakes. There's nobody else that's gonna take that second spot, and it'll still mean exactly that.
What if I said to you the second spot goes to Lennox?
Who's the first best British heavyweight ever?
One of them's fighting. He's the taller of the two.
What?
No, I'm playing devil's advocate. I don't necessarily say it, but I'm saying Tyson Fury, I think in his day...
Oh, stop. You'll settle down.
Hey. Now you listen to me, Robin. You listen to me, Robin. I'm going to go this. I'm going to say
why I can't let you drive. This is why I have to be back there. This is why I got to put you in the sidecar.
No, here. I'm not saying he is. I think he is. I'm not saying he is. But I'm saying Tyson Fury, I think he's got a shout at Lennox in terms of when he was at his peak. And I'm not even saying he's out of his peak. I think he is, but we'll get to that another time. Lennox, I think, had certain vulnerabilities that I think he could have exploited. And before I carry on, give it to me.
Tyson Fury does not beat Mike Tyson.
No.
Tyson Fury does
Lennox
not
Lewis doesn't beat a prime Mike Tyson either.
Tyson Fury doesn't beat the Mike Tyson that Lennox Lewis beat.
Oh, really? We could be here a while, guys. Buckle in.
I mean, listen, it's no disrespect to Tyson Fury, but come on. The war that Fury had was with Deontay Wilder, right? That third fight, probably the best, most entertaining, exciting, drama-filled heavyweight fight I've ever been ringside for. Mm-hmm. But Mike Tyson is knocking out Deontay Wilder all 3 fights.
In his prime, we're talking about prime Mike Tyson?
Yeah. And Holyfield.
Holyfield was a great fight.
I mean, and then Lennox Lewis himself. I don't see a world in which Tyson Fury beats Lennox Lewis at all.
Really? Interesting.
No,
what about the guy that got in the ring against Hasim Rahman?
What about it? So it was a 1-punch knockout. Mm-hmm. Credit to him. You get absolute credit for that. I mean, some might say the same thing happened to Fury in the first Deontay Wilder fight.
This is my point. You remember my point?
But the difference is that was a fight that the 1 punch put him down. Lennox came right back, knocked him out like Dunzo. Yeah. Fury comes back, stops Deontay Wilder, not as nicely as Lennox done it, but destroys him. Then they have a third fight that Deontay has to sue him for, and it turns into the greatest heavyweight fight ever. Now, I would say that second fight, while you give full credit to Fury, probably also had a lot to do with where Deontay Wilder's head was at. Like, if he could perform that way in the third fight, then to me the second fight was because all the excuses that he gave after the fight, he believed. Like, he thought, his head was all over the place and maybe hasn't been back since. Mm-hmm. So then you put Ngannou in the mix. Then you put 2 Usyk fights on top of that, and now we just see Magomedov. Come on, man.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Here's my point. Tyson Fury got up every time. That counts for something to me. Yeah.
Okay.
Fair or not?
I mean, it counts for something, not enough. I mean, that's why we're having it's enough to have a conversation about it.
Yeah. Side note, we said British.
Yeah.
Lennox Lewis won a gold medal in the Olympics. Who did he win it for?
Well,
who did he win it for? Don't dilly-dally with me. Who did he win? He won it for Canada. He went somewhere else, you traitor. He won it for Canada. He ain't even English.
No, now you've made it.
I've lost half the crowd.
No matter what we say going forward, the headline is Lennox Lewis ain't even British.
Hang on. If I go to Canada tomorrow and win a gold medal for something, can I be the greatest British anything? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I would just assume that you were over there to colonize Canada. Because that's the most British thing you can possibly do, actually.
We've descended into chaos, guys. We've descended. No, but you see my point, right? I'm kind of, not with the Canada thing. I mean, because he's a traitor anyway. Sorry, Lennox. Shout out Lennox. But he's, if we go, like, he got up off the I was going to say mat, off the floor, right, every time. I do think that counts a lot, you know? Now, listen, goes back saying, Lennox.
How many times has he been on the floor?
Hey. How many? The exact same amount he got up.
How many times Lennox been on the floor?
Twice, 3 times, I want to say. I think it's 3 times, right? I think it's 3 times.
How many times did he get up?
Once.
Well,
twice, but once he got stopped.
So, what are we talking about?
50-50.
What are we talking about? I mean, okay. I mean, I feel like maybe you're got a little bit of a bone to pick with Lennox Lewis. You might have a little bit of...
I got a bone to pick with Lennox Lewis.
A little bit.
He won a gold medal for another country, bro. Come on.
Come on. To the root.
No, should I tell you my real bone to pick with Lennox?
Yeah.
Won a gold medal for another country. Other bone to pick with Lennox Lewis. He said on Joe Rogan about, like, when he was asked about how do you think you'd have done against Mike Tyson in his prime?
Yeah.
And he came out with a statement which, I'll tell you why it's ridiculous. You got to let me get to it. But he was like, he said about, I think I did beat him in his prime. He went off on a spill. Now, my beef with that, right, is Lennox Lewis is a real, truly all-time great. Like, truly. Mm-hmm. So he don't need to go there. He could just say, yeah, I think I beat him, blah, 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 blah. Whereas when you go, and I think I beat him in his prime, I go, Lennox, man, come on. Come on, man.
Well, yeah, that's not fair. I don't believe he did beat a prime Mike Tyson. There, you know, anything up until Buster Douglas, you could argue, right?
Yeah.
But post Buster Douglas, you just can't say that's Tyson in his prime.
100% with you.
At the same time, though, I feel like Tyson was ducking Lennox Lewis a bit in his prime.
Dude, even back then in the 80s.
Even back then, I think, you know...
But Lennox wasn't around, right? Lennox didn't win a gold medal till, like, Tyson had beat Spinks.
Yeah, right. But that fight had always been, once Lennox come onto the scene, the one that people wanted to see, and that fight could have happened a lot sooner.
It could definitely happen sooner.
If Tyson was game.
Right.
Right?
Now, I feel like I've got a bit of a bone to pick with Tyson.
No bone to pick with Tyson, but I'm realistic about it, right? And again, to me, a prime Mike Tyson probably does at least beat Lennox Lewis early rounds. If Lennox gets past 6, 7, I'm thinking he's probably gonna.
I couldn't agree with you anymore. I think early doors. I think that's an early fight. I think it's one of them ones that could have been a classic Tyson, get him out of there quick. Because I think in his prime, listen, I've said it on here a million times, and like people have got a different opinion. Some people agree, some people completely disagree. I do personally think in his heyday, Tyson was the best heavyweight, and I say best, not greatest, because greatness can be defined. Like if you go in greatness, I have a very hard time arguing against Muhammad Ali for everything it involves, but. I'm talking best for a very I'm talking put him in a time capsule for that very short window of time. I think he'll beat everyone else. Obviously, people disagree.
Right. If you look at that Mike Tyson and face that Mike Tyson against, I won't call you crazy.
No,
I
can understand people disagree. And you can see where I get exactly. You can see where I'm coming from. Yeah. You understand.
There's a great kind of rant from Teddy Atlas. Yeah. That people should look up online. I wish I could call the actual title of it, but it's like Tyson lost every fight.
He's like 0-5 or something. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
but there's a specific rant.
It's basically whenever he meets resistance, he lost.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a tough one to swallow because he makes a strong case.
But Teddy Atlas got a personal issue with Tyson.
Well, he certainly does. But he makes a hell of a case, personal issue aside. Yeah. And so
my issue with that is, I think to get that great, you can't. You've met a lot of resistance along the way, haven't you? Like you can say genetics, you can say natural talent, whatever you want, but to get to that extreme level,
but it's kind of your theory about Tyson getting up off the canvas, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a certain level of resistance where it's either metaphorically or physically, you're knocked down. Can you get up off a rock bottom?
Yeah.
Can you put it together when all the chips are fucking down? And it's just you and your heart and your desire, right? Like, can you overcome? And I don't know. I don't know. Like this is also maybe ties back into our Dubois conversation because if we see that again from Dubois, that'll be the same kind of thing people will say about him in the annals of history.
But here's the thing too.
Even with the wins.
Yeah, I think you can change. I do think you can. I think it's not set in stone. Like, for example, you are 6'4", you are 5'10", whatever, right? Like, that's what you are. Versus, there is movement both ways as your career goes on, and as your career goes on, it falls. I'll give you, like, an example that comes to my mind is Eric Morales. When he fought one of the fights against Manny Pacquiao, I think it was the last time, he's sort of on the floor, he kind of looks, he has a wink and sort of shakes his head as like, that's enough for me. But like, we're going to call him a quitter. Like, in his day, he was like as tough as anyone ever come. Duran, obviously, the famous no mass. He came back again after that and was like... So I think it's... People say you can't, once you've swallowed... I'm not on that. Do you know what I mean? Do you see what I'm coming from?
No, that's why I say if we keep seeing it.
Of course, yeah.
One time, even like I'm way more forgiving of the Dubois... Joe Joyce stoppage than a lot of people are, right? And I'll even go further and make an argument that is past Dubois. In this day and age, with the science, as hard as people are hitting, the way you can recover and come back, all the money that's out there, the amount of opportunities you can get. Hey, listen, the dirty truth is it might be smarter if you know you're beaten, if you know that all that's left for you now is to take damage and go out on your shield or make some kind of moral victory to get to the 12th, it might be better for your ego and better for the headlines, but not as wise for your career. And a smart fighter might make that calculation.
Yep. But I guess that's the sort of the battle you got to go through, right? Because in terms of being smart, you know it ain't good for you, but the great champions will go through that, won't they? Do you know what I mean? Like, I think if you're going to be one of them all-time greats, you can't have that. You got to get up.
If you go through that for the better, yeah, I mean, like I say, I get it. I get the branding of it all.
Yeah.
But in reality...
Yeah, of course.
You know, maybe they go through that then because they know that there won't be other opportunities.
Right.
You know what I mean? And also, as great as that was in that era and all this, the science is undeniable. It's just people are just fit machines. Recovery is a lot different. Like you go through that in the ring because when you get out of that ring, recovery is massive if you even get enough anyway. Like it's a different mindset, it's a different mentality, a different level of opportunity, not just for money making, competition, but also physically. You can get past this and get back in the ring in 3 months, or you can get beat down and maybe never get back to what you were before, like a Wilder and Fury situation where something you do too much and it just takes it out of you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But our community, the way that we think of what the definition of a fighter is does not make room for that.
Yep.
And I understand that. I'm not saying that necessarily it even should, but in reality, it certainly could.
Yep. And it's the conscious mind. It's easy to say, like sitting here now under no pressure, we can sit and you can think of like make the calculation if you like 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah.
But then when you're in there and the blood and the sweat and the tears is going, you got to make it in a split second too, and the punches is still. It's hard, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's I think a lot of it does come down to instinct and who you are, like truly. Do you know what I mean? Because you can fake it, can't you? You can fake it. You can see it. We can sit here, talk slick. But then when someone starts punching you ready, it's a risk. Here's an interesting question for you because we spoke about him a fair bit. And I've got my own opinion, and it'd be interesting. We probably spoke about him before, but we'll cover. Where does Wilder sit for you in terms of both this era and like his standing in history? Because he's been a heavyweight champion of the world. And I'll give you my opinion.
He's done more with a right hand than any fighter in the history of boxing. That would be what I would write in his epitaph. I'll go one further, though. If you gave me a pick'em right now, who I'd rather see Anthony Joshua face next, I'm putting Wilder in that slot.
Would you? Yeah.
Without hesitation.
Even like as because I feel like he had a good fight against Chisora, right? I'll say good, but not his prime, right? He looked to me like a fighter that's past.
Nobody's in their prime.
Right.
We're out of our prime conversation.
I'm in my prime, bro. I'm 21 years old and
Nobody
I'm still on the
we're
rise.
talking about.
Yeah, no.
Obviously, Robin, you're still in your prime. We're sitting here in
Hey,
Batman's
listen,
lair.
you listen to me, Robin. Don't get slick with me. But no, but my point on Wilder, like I feel like in his day, now I'm not going to make an argument that he's one of the all-time greatest heavyweight champions, but I do think in his day, he would have been such a hard fight for anyone in history because of that one. The Luis Ortiz fight always comes to mind. He was getting boxed up, right? Like whatever. And it just looked like to me, he's waiting. He knows he ain't going to beat him in a boxing match. And on top of that, the other one, like the third fight against Fury, he was getting a beating, right? But he's got giant heart, balls, whatever you want to call it. I think that goes a long way. And it's a hard night's work for anyone in history. Do you see where I'm coming from with that?
Yeah, I'd have to actually see, which we never will.
Yeah, of course.
You know, I think that the vulnerabilities that Wilder had and the fairly one-dimensional offense and his reliance on it in another era would not have gotten him quite as far.
Has that got a shelf life, do you think, being that one punch? Because the longer your career goes on, people know that, figure it out, which is...
Once somebody solves the puzzle... You got to have something else.
Right.
I mean, he's the greatest example of that. You know what I mean? Like, even Canelo, as great as Canelo is, at a point, he started relying on the knockout. Now, it wasn't a one-dimensional offense, but he wasn't looking to win rounds anymore. He was expecting to get to the knockout.
Yep.
And once that waned, once that wasn't as available and sure, it opened the door for a Benevides, right?
Yeah, right.
It opens the door for Crawford to sit and look at Canelo and be like, I can make this work.
Yeah, right.
You cannot rely on a knockout, whether it's a one-punch knockout or you're breaking a guy down two-handed, whatever it is. If you got to win by knockout, there's a shelf life on that.
Yeah, I hear that. And it's also, I feel like Deontay Wilder got found out a little bit later on because he almost looked like he was learning to try and box. Do you see what I mean? Like Malik Scott, who was his coach, and he's a great coach. I've actually had the chance to do a workshop with him. Shout out Malik if there's ever finds you, mate. But he's I feel like it was almost Wilder's game plan A, B, and C is the obvious. You know what I mean? You're never going to catch the other guys at elite level with skill. So when you're trying to do that, you're always going to be playing catch up, and that kind of listen. There's so many moving parts. It's hard to say what would have worked for him, but
yeah, I mean, you always want to shore up the obvious holes in a game, right? I was the one, probably more than anybody, calling for Wilder to learn how to box. I thought Malik Scott would be the perfect fit. And Malik Scott is a great trainer, but you have to take a fighter from where he's at and be able to get him with the foundation where you want him to go. And I think that Wilder's foundation was really rooted in this a bit reckless, if that's the right word. Unconventional is a better word. Type of style. He had confidence in that. He had success with that. And really didn't have anything to turn to better than that.
Right.
And so while Malik was trying to turn it to something more established, something more foundationally solid that could get you further, it really was a bit too late to cement that into his foundation. So, you know, I don't blame Malik Scott for that. No. If anything, I blame myself, not for his, obviously, his outcomes, but for my own kind of blind spot on the idea that, you know, not everybody can execute fundamentals at a stage. Like, to me, that was just like a blanket thing. Always go back to the fundamentals. But if fundamentally that's not what your boxing understanding is based on, it's complicated to change and have success in the process of changing. Wilder didn't have the option to then just go back to fighting, you know, 4-rounders and tomato cans and just working it out for a couple of years like you would. Like, for that to have worked, I believe they would have had to, like, kind of start over.
You know? You ain't got enough time left.
He's heavyweight champion, or at least former heavyweight champion, and looking to compete with the elites. Ain't no reset button.
Nah. Yeah, but you just won up my when I said Lennox Lewis ain't English and that was going to be the title. You just said it was your fault Deontay lost, so I think that's going to be the new title, right?
I never said that.
You said it. You said it.
No.
You said it now.
I said not that it was my fault. That
but it was after you already said it was his fault. It was your fault first. You said it was your fault first. That's all we need.
I said I blame myself.
Bro, listen, Robin. That's all we need.
No one cares what
Robin said. You're right. We're sticking with Batman. I take that.
If they don't care what I think, they certainly don't care what you think about what I think. Well, but what they do care about is whether or not their greatest heavyweight champion ever isn't even British.
Well, listen, for me, the podcast has really ruined. My feelings are hurt, and we'll have. This is going to take some getting over. I'm going to be honest with you. But springing back, I put my feelings aside.
I'm only talking about the audience. I regard you highly.
Well, I mean, Robin, you robbing me off.
Favorite guy in this interview.
But listen. Before I start crying and get over emotional, Fury AJ. First of all, like we've sort of jumped around a bit. Did it even happen? Do you think? Do you think it'll end up happening?
I think they're gonna get around to it.
Oh, hello, we're being invaded.
Yeah, that's probably delivery. They'll find their way in.
They'll find a way.
But I'll say that before the Magomedov fight, I would have had Fury as a greater favorite, and after not just the fight and what we saw in the ring, but what we saw post-fight and the antics, I give Joshua the nod.
Yeah,
it's changed my mind. I believe Joshua's finally, after all these years, for the first time in my book, gotten the one-upsmanship. I think his mindset is better now than it would have been before.
Yep.
I think he is not here for the games or the nonsense, for the shtick of the show, that he will do this on his own terms and his own time and come in 100% confident that that's the place he wants to be, first of all, is a huge issue, and should be.
Yep.
And that he will come in knowing that he's there to get a job done that he can do. And I don't believe that maybe that would be true at any other time in their rivalry.
I 100% agree with that. I do believe that. I think this is the first time Joshua truly believes he'll beat him. Now, again, for whatever that's worth, what I think. But it's like, I do feel like there was a shift after in that one. There was a little bit of a... No, that doesn't mean he's going to win. I've always thought Fury would win, personally. But as we go now it is a little bit... And also, he's training with Usyk. Now, again, that can go one or two ways. Sometimes, like we touched on, when he's training with a great trainer, Deontay Wilder, with Malik Scott, that doesn't always improve you. But sometimes that can have the opposite effect because you're trying to learn new things on the fly when you're already at elite level. However, the way Usyk is and the way it seems from the outside, of course, we only see what they let us see anyway, but it does seem like he's in a good place, right? He's been through, obviously, away from the ring, a big tragedy as well, with what happened with two close... I think they're really close friends of his as well, not just part of his team. And it's like, sometimes... He's got all the achievements, he's got all the money, both of them have, but there's an element sometimes of, you can see it in fighters where it seems like, all I want is this fight now. And when you can sort of cut all the nonsense out, I do feel like that can really elevate it. Do you see where I'm coming from with that?
Yeah, the Usyk piece to me is very much part of why I believe he will be in that mindset and in that position when he gets into the ring. It's such a humbling decision to make, to decide to publicly do that without any shame or any qualification. You're training with the guy who beat the opponent that you're subsequently going to have twice and yourself. So who knows better? I mean, you couldn't ask for a better environment. And Usyk's not his trainer, right? But he's training in an environment with the guy who's fought 4 rotations of this matchup and not only knows a science that has yet not been available to either one of these guys, but also, I believe, has a joy in imparting that to Joshua in particular. I think he likes Joshua, Usyk I'm talking about. I think he doesn't quite really rate Fury in that way. Like, they'll have a back and forth, but I think if he's honest, he probably thinks Fury's a bit of a bellend. And he would pleasure Usyk to see Joshua beat Fury, right? I think what could be learned in that environment could be priceless.
I agree with that, yeah. And it's interesting to see, like you said, the humbling side of things, because that's turning a corner as well, isn't it? Because it'd be easy to go, I'm not training with him, still, he's never going to fight him again, right? Is the reality of it. So why not make the best of it? And again, that's easy to say when you're not involved, because when you've had losses to people, that can play on your brain a bit, but he's obviously took it as best as you possibly can. There's 2 ways of looking at things, right? You can't be a good loser because, you still want to achieve, right? Great Hicks and Gracie quote, which I love, is show me a good loser, I'll show you a loser. So, do you know what I mean? You've got to straddle the line careful, haven't you? But I think ultimately this is a positive. And I'm excited for the Joshua Fury fight again, because it got to the point a little bit where it was like, I didn't think we'd ever see it. But now it does seem like we will, and whatever. Before we finish up, mate, one thing as well, we haven't spoke about him. He's at the top of the tree still, even though we sort of almost write him off as he's going to retire soon because he's beat everyone. Everyone else is fighting each other. Where do you think Usyk's place stands in history?
I mean, he's obviously has to be up there with the best of all time as a fighter, which to me might be a greater compliment than narrowing it to a division, but there's a distinction. I'm not so convinced that he is as great a heavyweight as people want to give him credit for. I'm not putting it down to him in the sense that I would like to see him against those who I rate above him. Obviously fantasy matchup prime to prime.
You're going to say Lennox again, aren't you?
I mean, Lennox is definitely on that list. You know what I mean? But
with what flag? The British flag or the Canadian? Anyway, go on. Carry on.
But the names on his resume in the modern day, you can't ask for better.
No.
But in other eras, you could certainly eclipse fairly easily.
You think fairly easily, yeah.
Fairly easily. I mean, basically, his claim to fame is just beating a bunch of British heavyweights. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like,
does America do heavyweights anymore? I didn't realise. Carry on.
Which is exactly why you can have this conversation and need that caveat. It's exactly my point, actually. So, yeah, the fact that he was undisputed at cruiser and undisputed at heavyweight, as small as a heavyweight that he is, and, beating the guys in front of him when entering the heavyweight division, a lot of people thought, oh, he's too small for this. Yeah. You know, what are you going to do?
He ain't that small, though. You've been up close to him, right? He ain't that small.
Yeah, I mean...
He's on the smaller side, but like he ain't too small is what I'm saying.
I think, well, he's got a bit bigger, hasn't he?
Right, yeah. But he's 6'3". He's got a fairly big frame. You know what I mean? 100 and something kilos. At a certain point, you're big enough to me. Do you know what I mean? How big do you need to be?
Yeah, clearly he's big enough, but, Klitschko, Foreman, these guys...
Here's a question for you. Simple. Keep it simple. Like, if we look at, again, by the measure we spoke about earlier, but if they could put in a time capsule and fight each other, how do you think he does against certain people? Like, if I give you a few names, because it'd be interesting to see where you think, and I'll give you what I think. Muhammad Ali.
The problem is this. And this is something that is not just exclusive to Usyk, but the reason I don't even bother with these kind of. I can rate a guy where he was at the time, and I can rate the eras. But to match up a guy from this era to a different time, there are so many other elements that we don't have time to discuss.
Yep.
That just make it a futile discussion.
Yeah, okay.
Conditioning, down to diet, what's available, how often they fight, what sports science, even the type of gloves and
all
of that stuff.
Just as,
but you can't put all the
can't.
all in the mix.
I'll tell you the names I was going to go to, and I'll give you the reason why these specific names. Muhammad Ali, Larry Holmes, George Foreman, Mike Tyson, right? And I was going to sort of float Lennox Lewis as well, because he's sort of the new generation, right? And the size comes into play a bit more. Whereas like them 4 names I gave you, for example, they were good for the era and they sort of overlapped and crossed to the next, if you know what I mean.
Okay, I'll put you like this, since I'll play the game. I had to put that caveat in, but I'll play the game.
I feel like you're robbing me off a bit again then. You gave me I'm Batman and I'll answer your questions in a sec, kid. But anyway, carry on.
But of all the names you just listed, I'll give you the one I would say most likely to beat Usyk.
Okay.
Larry Holmes.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Why? I got my reasons why. I agree. Not necessarily the most reason, but I think he would have beat him. I feel like he was. Well, I'm going to talk for you. You go.
I'll give you. I mean, to me, Larry Holmes' best jab in boxing history. I think you're putting a jab on Usyk. He's going to have a problem with that. Larry Holmes following up with that right hand. I mean, Larry Holmes just better to me.
Yep.
And I don't think you're overcoming that you're not beating Larry Holmes.
Not because he's American. Nothing to do with
No, but I mean that's fundamentally part of it. The fact that he's American is why all these things can be true. You know what
Obvious,
I mean?
right?
Yeah.
American. Go with the American. Yeah.
I mean, history tells a tale. You know, it's not for me. It's not for me to make these decisions.
Bro, this ain't the 90s. This ain't the 19th century.
But that's the point.
20th
that's
century.
The point. If it were, which is what we're talking about.
If's a big word, bro. Hey, watch yourself. If's a big word.
You've asked the if question. But I grant you that it is not the 90s, not the 80s, and it's not the American golden era of heavyweights. Hasn't been in a while. But when it was, you ain't beating them guys in any era, any place else, and these guys ain't beating those guys.
Biggest question of the day. Lennox Lewis, English or Canadian?
English.
Oh, man. I thought you was going to go Canadian to back up your own argument that British heavyweights weren't good. I tried.
Lennox Lewis is the best British heavyweight ever, for sure.
Behind Tyson Fury, I agree. Thanks for coming.
I didn't even know, like, what was the connection to Canada?
He won a gold medal for him.
I know, but what was
his connection. I think he just moved there. His mum moved there when he was like 12, and I think he grew up from 12 to sort of turning pro. He was in Canada. I think it was as simple as that.
Oh, so he was just a young man coming out of Canada because he was there, and so that's the team he probably could get on.
Yeah.
Was he supposed to?
Supposed to get on a plane? Well, they don't have planes in Canada. Don't Canada have planes?
Even then, I think planes and the little boarding and school cost a bit of money.
You're outrageous. You are. Yeah, I mean, listen.
You know what? Why didn't the British government fly him in, put him up, and pay for all of his schooling? And
I agree. It's a good question. Where were they?
Yeah.
Where were they? They should have.
Who's that?
I blame Lennox. He should have got on a plane.
Who was prime minister? Is this? No.
Before my time, bro. Before my time. hashtag born in the 90s. But anyway, mate, as I say, always a pleasure to sit down with you. Hopefully we'll do many more through the years. Main question, the football question. You've killed me twice on it before. I got to ask it because people's been watching. There you go, guys. Hey, I'm trying to get him Chelsea'd up. I'll bring him a t-shirt next time.
If I change from Arsenal, it's gonna be Crystal Palace.
Until next time, my man, I always finish with a fist up like this. Squeeze the neck.